This video covers Sketching Basics 1, how to create a sketch in Inventor. So once you open Inventor, you're going to want to come up here and say File and New. Now, for this assignment, you want a metric part. So click on this folder and click just standard mm for millimeters. And this will take a second to open. Just give it time. Okay, so now that your part has opened, you'll see there's nothing in the design window. Just hit Start 2D Sketch. You don't hit the drop down, just hit this button right up here. And it's going to ask you what plane you want to draw on. So you can pick any of these. I tend to pick the XY plane. And now we're in the sketching window. So the first thing you want to do is I want you to notice that as I move my mouse, I want you to look down here. You'll see that when I'm near the origin or snap to the origin, I'm just about on 0, 0. And as I come left, you'll see the numbers going up in X. I can come up in Y. So this basically gives you a little bit of a location for where your cursor is. Don't forget as well that you can scroll with your middle mouse button so that your sketch will zoom in and out. So I'm zooming right now. You can also do what's called pan. If you hold your middle mouse button down and then drag, you can move the sketch around. So I would suggest that you move it so that the origin is a little bit farther down in the bottom left corner because we're going to draw in this space. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you want to do is click on lines. So we're going to just start by drawing a few lines. I want you to notice right now the cursor has a yellow dot on it. As I get closer to a sketch feature of some kind, in this case the origin, it snaps to green. And what that's telling you is that Inventor found some sketch feature that it thinks you might want to draw on. So in this case, it thinks you want to click on the origin, which we do. So go ahead and click once it's green. And now we're fixed to the origin. Now you want this line to be around 45 millimeters. If you can't get to it because you're too zoomed in or out, try zooming and get to around 45. It doesn't have to be exact. And go ahead and click that down. And now what I want you to notice is this little, what's called a glyph. It's a picture. That tells you that this line is fixed to be horizontal. You just have to get to know that that picture with those three little lines hanging on the bottom indicates ground. So it's saying that it's parallel to ground, which means it's horizontal. Now I'm going to come up here and you'll see again that it will snap for you once it thinks it's at a point where you would like to be. So most people want to draw lines at 90 degrees. So you can see that as I'm getting closer to 90, it'll all of a sudden just snap there. And that's what I want you to do. So go ahead and click that down. Okay, now I want you to hit the escape tool. We now have two lines drawn. And what I want you to notice is if I right click, so I just right clicked my middle mouse button, and I can hit this button, show all constraints. Now it will show you these little pictures, and it tells you with these pictures what the property means. So this, you'll just have to know means perpendicular. It's sort of intuitive since it shows two lines which are perpendicular to each other. It also, as you notice, as I hover over it, it will highlight the two lines. Same thing here. It shows that this one line is horizontal. One thing you can do is click on that little glyph and say delete. And now you'll notice that you can, it's hard to grab this little circle, but you'll know there. You can grab this and move it around. And what I want you to notice is that those two lines are always staying perpendicular to each other because the only constraint that I deleted was the horizontal one. Okay, so now that I left it in this weird state, I do want this line to be horizontal. So let's click on this line and change it up here. So this is all of your constraints windows, constraint buttons. You're going to get to know these eventually, but I want you to click on this line, and then here is the horizontal constraint. You can always hover over it, and we'll explain it. If you click that, it'll force that line to be horizontal again. Okay, you might have now just noticed that my color scheme changed. Sorry, for the first part of the video, I had a different color scheme, so it was showing lines in different colors than what yours will. So it's now set to be looking like yours. You don't have to do anything to get it to match because it already should. Okay, So now all I want you to do is, I'm going to make this a little bit shorter. And you can see that I can still move this line in and out. I'm going to put it around 45. I want this thing to be maybe about 20, this line I should say, to be about 20 or so millimeters tall. And I'm going to come up and choose a line tool again. It's a yellow glyph. Wait until it turns green near the top, which is the end point. And now we're just going to, don't worry about distances or angles right now. I just want you to make something that looks approximately like this. And now you'll see it'll snap green again. And now we know our sketch is closed. You can hit the escape button anytime in Inventor to get out of a tool. And I just want you to notice here, this is saying that's a horizontal. These two lines are perpendicular. So you can see, I'm not sure why that one's the whole way over there, but you can see what it does with these glyphs or these constraints. Now I'm going to hit F9, or you can do the same thing, right click and say hide all constraints, so that those are gone for the moment. And instead of showing constraints, I'm going to click a button that's called Show Degrees of Freedom, which is this button right here. So what this does is it's like the opposite of constraints. It shows you what's free to move. So it shows with this red line that this line can move up and down, but that's all it can move. I can't move it left and right, or I can't rotate it. This little round squiggly line shows that this line can rotate, and to do so, you could just drag this, and you can see that the angle is not set. Okay, so that's what the red lines mean. You can always turn these off if you don't want to look at them by hitting this again. I'm going to leave them on. Okay, next you're going to learn how to dimension these lines so that they are a fixed size. So up here, you're going to see the dimension tool. Click on that, and now I just want you to click this line. I clicked the line, but you can see that my cursor is still moving around. You have to actually click a second time, and it's like telling Inventor where you want that number to be located on your sketch. So I'm just going to click anywhere and say 45. And now you can see it's set to 45. The other thing I want you to notice is that the red arrows that were on this line are no longer there. That's because this line is no longer free to move, because it's being fixed by this. So this line can't move because it's 45 degrees or 45 millimeters long. Okay, the next thing I want you to see is if you make a typo or change your mind on the length of something, you can just double click on this number and it will bring this edit window back up, and you can change this anytime you want. So I'm going to change it to 50. So that's how you change a dimension. Now I'm going to dimension the height of this line. So I'm going to this time click here and here, which defines the distance between those two lines. And again, I'm going to just click over here and place it outside of my sketch. And this I'm going to say is half of that. You can actually click on this dimension if you want to say that divided by 2. And it will always make this be half of that, which is sometimes convenient. And you can see that 25 is half of 50. Okay. Now it's still saying we still have a few degrees of freedom left with these red arrows. You always want a sketch to be fully constrained, because that way you know that you have fully defined this sketch and there's nothing left unopened that you forgot to dimension. You can also notice here that it says there are only 2 dimensions needed. Now there are 4 red arrows, but only 2 dimensions are required to fix that. So let's start by defining the angle between these 2 lines. So to define an angle, you have to click 2 lines. You can't click a point because a point doesn't define an angle. So I'm going to click this line and that line, and you can see, as you might remember from geometry, you can get any of the quadrants of the angle. I want this inner one, so click that down, and I'm going to give it 108 degrees. Now that wasn't quite enough. We still have 1 dimension needed. What's missing, if I hit the escape key, you can always drag on anything that has the red arrow and see what's changing. So you can see that this line, the length of this line is not defined. We're going to define it by actually hitting the equals here. And what we're going to do is make these 2 lines be of equal length. So I'm going to click this one and that one. And now, as you can see down here, our sketch is fully constrained. Ignore that window, and we are done with this sketch. You can hit Finish Sketch now, and you're done with the assignment for now. Please pick it up on the next video.